helmets, right? This is going to get into another, I mean, there's all these accessories on it as well. But when you're choosing a helmet, bump or ballistic, right? Those are the primary decisions. For a lot of recreational use, hiking, camping, airsofting, I like using my bump because it's going to save my neck. We talk about, reducing fatigue. Mm-hmm. Use the bump when you get the chance, but not to say don't train with your ballistic. You get used to it, but use the bump to save your head when you can. And a bump, really, it's not providing any ballistic protection. It's just a plastic or carbon shell with some padding inside. So hard, blunt trauma is what it's going to protect you from.
It gives you all the functionality of having a helmet, being able to strap everything to it. It's not going to protect you from incoming rounds.
Exactly.
That might not be important for you if you're just airsofting or, out hiking or, hunting or just having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, bump helmets are important because that's like the way that you convince yourself that you can afford night vision. You buy fucking a bump helmet.
Oh, saving $500.
Yeah, I'll save myself like, what was it?
$1,000.
It was like $2,500 for ops core.
Yeah,
the amps and the ops core.
And then the Team Wendy bump, which is the bump that I recommend to most people, is like $280. So vast difference there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like I said, you kind of convince yourself that like I can get in the game if I get like a Team Wendy bump.
That's how almost everyone starts.
Yeah, go back to the budget piece. I mean, that's an important factor, right?
Yeah.
Well, would you rather have nods and a Team Wendy or not have nods because you wanted a ballistic?
Use case.
Yeah.
Use case.
I think the nods are a better force multiplier than having a ballistic helmet.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Now, a really important piece of the helmet is the retention system and the padding, because the stock padding, both of you guys have been kind of spoiled here because both of the helmets I've let you guys use have these upgraded pads by 4D Tactical.
My ops core didn't have them.
Oh, the 1D you're using, right, from US Night Vision?
No. Remember the ops core helmet that I had?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you had the SF as well.
I just used it for drive-throughs. I didn't actually use it.
Cloud chasing. That's right. You got to do it. You got to do it at least once.
Yeah.
But the stock padding, man, it's going to give you hot spots and pressure points after like an hour of use.
It's like the ear pads on your Ear Pro. You got to change those things out.
You got to change them out.
Yeah, man.
So you got to change out the pads. Now, Ops Core and Team Wendy have different types of retention, active retention. And these are the dials on the back of your helmet that you cinch
it's
down.
like a BOA system.
Exactly,
You might see it on a pair of shoes, your snowboard boots. There's a lot of applications.
Yeah, Team Wendy even uses a straight up BOA. So really making sure these are squared away to fit your head comfortably is going to allow you to wear that night vision comfortably for extended periods of time. We talked about the helmets, bump versus ballistic, the pads, the retention. Let's look at the accoutrements, right? Some of the accessories on the helmet. The first thing, counterweight, right? So we've got night vision hanging out in front of our face, this heavy weight that's leveraging on our neck, which is hurting. Now, counterweight is all it is oftentimes it's just lead weights that you can, I've thrown adhesive Velcro on mine, and all you do is you stick it on the back of your helmet to even out that front to back weight distribution so that you don't have your head pulling down forward from the nods. And this is just a way to equalize that weight. So very important to reduce neck fatigue. Your neck will seriously thank you for equaling out that counter.
Yeah, you want a quick way to get a migraine headache, and that is to pull your neck into flexion on a constant basis. And for those people that are desk jockeys and sit in front of computers all day that already have that forward head situation going on, you'd strap one of these things on. You add another 5, 6 or more pounds to your neck, and you're going to feel that really quick. And I don't think you can overemphasize the importance of balancing this thing out and having a weight. It would be like throwing a set of tires on your car, right, and not balancing those tires and then driving down the road. Anybody that has an unbalanced set of tires knows you get to a certain mile per hour and it feels like that thing's going to rattle to pieces. Well, imagine the same thing happening to the very small, delicate vertebrae and discs within your spine, and particularly your cervical spine.
Yeah,
this cannot be This just cannot be overemphasized. And I may beat this up from a fitness perspective, but I work with people, and we work with people all the time who have fucked their necks up, not wearing a helmet, right? Not doing any of this stuff just simply because they're weak, right? And they have poor posture. So if you're already walking into this situation a bit weak with poor posture, throw one of these things on your head and run around the range for an hour, and you've now just throwing gasoline on a forest fire.
Yeah, recipe for disaster. Like even if you start doing wide target transition, swinging your head left and right, that counterweight is going to make it feel a lot more centered, and you have less like momentum swinging left and right. So very important.
Good to go.
Good to go. The rest of the accessories on the helmet, we'll kind of breeze by these because I want to get to the illuminators and the rifles and whatnot. But we've got Ear Pro, right? Ear Pro mounted on the helmet is a lot more comfortable than running it on a band inside the helmet. A lot of guys do that. And
I've seen this. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's pros and cons. Don't get me wrong. There is something to be said about running your Ear Pro separate from the helmet.
You can take your helmet off.
Take your helmet off and still maintain Ear Pro and communications. Very important, right? But the comfort is not quite as there with versus Ear Pro mounted to your helmet on the rails.
Real quick.
Yep.
So we're all civilians here, right? So for us, this is something that like Scott and me always talk about. The way we solve problems in our gear is always going to be different than the guys that were chilling in Iraq for years at a time. Because I've heard that like be able to take your helmet off, but keep comms.
Yeah. And the reason being like you could be in a firefight that goes 24 hours.
Yeah,
right?
and like
you might be nice to be able to take your helmet off.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how fit you are, man. You don't want this helmet on for long periods of time if you can help it.
Right.
So, no experience from me at all. Me just hearing other people that I know say that.
Same.
But I know that our group of friends we all want like the wing system.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like the easiest to deal with what we do, and it's the most comfortable. But also, none of us outside of Milsom Airsoft.
And you know, it's funny to that point. I've brought 2 sets of Ear Pro to Milsom West, one on the helmet, one on the band because of that reason. Mm-hmm. So it goes to show there is an advantage to doing that.
Yeah.
But good point.
But it's just the different ways of thinking about it through our experiences.
Yeah. Yep. Again, yeah. I mean, how long are you going to be wearing this helmet for? And, again, what's the application? I think we're all wearing the wings and the amps and it just makes sense. So for those people that are not watching, basically the Ear Pro is mounted to a wing system that pulls which is mounted to the helmet. So your comms are kind of individual, like think of Dumbo ears, right? Or Mickey Mouse ears. They flip up and away when you don't need them, and then you can pull them back down and then situate them. They work very well, just as good as wearing a band versus the typical what you'd see out there on the range if you're going to go out to a range day and you'd be wearing your band with your Ear Pro. If you've ever borrowed a pair of those, you know exactly how those fit. That band would go inside the helmet.
Added pressure point.
So you got an added pressure point, and if you wearing your Ear Pro, right, and you have your glasses on, right, or your eye pro on, and the rails from those glasses are strapped or coming across the tops of your ears. You got the Ear Pro pushing in. Then you maybe have because it's on a band. If you've been out there all day, you need that relief. Like it's just like, God, I got to get these things off of me. And you can be kind of sore. It can get uncomfortable. Period. End of story. It's like stubbing your toe. It's like, damn, that sucks. Like, and it's just irritating, right? So you have that. But what you're saying is those guys actually will wear the band under the helmet.
Right.
So you have the band, throw the helmet over the top. You can imagine that much more pressure coming on the top of your head, sides of your heads, everywhere else. That could get really uncomfortable over longer periods of time.
Yeah, it hurts. And there's ways to do it well. A lot of tweaking with the internal pads to create a channel for the headband, but it's never going to be as comfortable as this. So just take into account for that, right?
Gotcha.
Now, moving on from the Ear Pro, let's talk about additional illumination, right? So on the side of my helmet, I've got a vampire light attached to an S&S Precision mount, which lets me aim this light forwards, down, and up. And why this is really important is that umbrella lighting, right? When we point a light directly at the ceiling, it's going to give us a really nice distribution of light throughout that whole room.
It's like a flood.
A flood, exactly. And why this is important is that we don't want to look around and blind teammates in the eye. And also, it's just a much more pleasant way to distribute light. You light up the whole room rather than just shooting out in the hot spot. So being able to swivel your light up, down, in front is very nice.
So if you think, again, for those that aren't watching, so the way this light looks, if you could imagine, or if you've ever seen like a firefighter, right, who's got their full turnouts on and their helmet on, and they'll have a helmet mounted light on strapped to strapped to their helmet. Not all of them wear these, but I have seen this is pretty common. And so effectively it just gives you wherever that head goes, that light's going.
Yep.
Now the mount that you have here articulates in several different directions. And so you can use this for admin if you wanted to, but you could also use it for, like, as you mentioned, just creating this extra light without shining it in your brother's eyes that's standing next to you with night vision on.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting part about this, which you haven't gotten into yet, is this light puts off two different types of light. We should talk about that.
Correct. So this light, the Vampire by Surefire, puts out both white light and infrared light. So night vision, right? It can see infrared light. So when we are in situations where we need to put out additional light to help us navigate, and we don't have to worry about other users with night vision as well, and we can just activate this IR light on our helmet to add that additional supplemental IR light in those extreme low light situations where our night vision cannot amplify the ambient light. And that's how we'll be able to navigate.
So for those of those people that may be completely unfamiliar with what IR light is like, under night vision, if you turned on your white light, it would be blinding. There would be too much light. You wouldn't be able to see. You'd have to flip your goggles up or your tubes up so that you can see the white light. That's like basically a regular flashlight. And this is a very high powered flashlight if you use that white light. So you're going to be blinded. And you can imagine now everybody in the line, everybody on the team has too much light to deal with, and they're going to be blinded. So they're going to have to do the same. IR light is not visible by the naked eye. So again, for those people that don't know, when I flick on my IR, it's effectively like turning on a flashlight under nods.
Yep.
So just like a flashlight would illuminate, it's got throw, right? It's got flood. It's got a hot spot. It's got those different variables to it. The same for this light, only it's on IR. So nobody that isn't wearing nods can see this.
Exactly.
Right. It's only the people that are wearing the nods. So just for those people that are maybe a little bit more or not as familiar.
Yep, exactly. So you do have to be aware, in situations where you have near peer opponents that also have night vision, you might not want to throw that guy on because that's a giant spotlight on your head that
it's just a target.
Exactly. Yeah. So
like, you mean turn it on, right?
Yeah, you don't want to turn this guy
but
on.
Like the admin light is actually way more useful than people give it credit for. Like when they buy night vision, they're like, I don't need that shit. And then
try going out to the range. Yeah.
Yeah. Like actually try to like look up shit like in front of you. That's actually right in front of you.
How about just jam some mags in the pitch?
Exactly. Try to load.
Because one of the things we didn't mention about the tubes is like the range.
Yes.
Right.
So focusing.
The focus. So we did mention the like if you're wearing a single tube versus dual tubes, that this is an advantage of having a single tube in that I can only see what's directly in front of me is not in focus.
Right.
It's not in focus. It is very blurry. Right. It's probably, I don't know, but the ranges probably differ between tubes, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2.5, 3 feet before things really become into focus. It's at least at the end of your rifle.
Yeah. Like if you normally draw your gun and present it into your line of sight and you can see the entire gun if you focus on the gun, you can't do that with night vision.
Yeah. Right. So when you rack focus in night vision, most people typically focus their night vision to infinity, meaning the stars. So they'll get the stars in focus, but just like a camera, right? When you have the bokeh in the background, when you, or if you use portrait mode on an iPhone, that foreground it can be completely blurry.
Yep.
Exactly. So to your point with the PVS-14, right? I can use my eye that's not using night vision and do my admin tasks and then really quickly just look through my night vision.
That's also kind of like a learning thing. So I'm months into training with night vision now, right? Well, with that being said, like I really like having the option with single tubes without going too far down that road, because if I ever need to be grounded for a second and just know what the world looks like, I can just close one eye and be like, fuck, dude, am I loading a full mag? This feels like a full mag. Right. You know what I mean?
Those are all considerations, I think. Yeah. And then I think there's another thing with this too, and that is proprioception, or your awareness in space. Now, I got to tell you, when I strap those things on the few times that I have, I felt very comfortable right away. It got a little awkward indoors because there's a lot more obstacles. Right. I was getting around tables and chairs, and there were sometimes step ups, right? Transitions in the floor and things like that. Those are things that you have to learn how to kind of feel around with your feet. That's a little bit more technical, learning stuff that you have to do. but I felt very comfortable right away. I feel like I have fairly good proprioception, kind of what's out and where my body is in space, where I'm stepping, where I'm not, the feedback that I'm getting from the ground, the feedback that I'm getting from whether it's the air, vibration, things like that. That might sound a little hokey, but I think that's just being in touch with your body. So throwing these things on puts you in an entirely different environment where you're using your senses in a different way.
Definitely, dude. Like you have to be able to reload whatever weapon you're using without looking, without like having any vision.
Yeah, I don't want to get so I don't want to get too far off track here with regard to the equipment that we were talking about with regard to the helmet. Now moving on to the IR and laser stuff. But this shit is important because it's not just like, oh, you throw some nods on and you have all the equipment in the world and you're going to be able to perform. We talked about the training piece, but there also is this, there's a physiological response to throwing this stuff on your body outside of the weight, right?
Some people get nauseous even. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So you could get very nauseous from kind of motion sickness and not being able to see. That depth perception is messed up. We've talked about all that. So these are considerations in terms of your training, just because you have nods. And you're training on a flat range or like on an indoor range or whatever, where you don't have to worry about stepping over stuff. My experience indoor versus outdoor, very different.
Right.
Very different.
When you mix in 2x4s with nails and broken glass and windows, have fun with that, man. It's going to be a tough learning experience.
Gotcha.